Have you ever felt that kind of tired that's just deep in your bones, where even the simplest things feel like climbing a mountain? You've probably heard the word anemia, but what's really going on inside your body when it happens? Well, today, we're going to connect all the dots, from how our bodies are supposed to work perfectly to the alarm bells they ring when a really critical system starts to fail. So listen to this. It probably sounds pretty familiar, right? This is a classic picture. A student who's just constantly exhausted, weak, gets winded just walking across campus, and their heart feels like it's hammering away. These aren't just vague feelings, you know? They are very real, physical signals that something inside is out of whack. So what is the connection here? How does feeling weak link up with a racing heart? To figure that out, we've first got to take a look at how our body is supposed to work when everything is running like a well-oiled machine. I want you to think of your circulatory system as the most amazing delivery service you can possibly imagine. It's on the clock 24/7 with one single, absolutely vital mission: getting oxygen where it needs to go. And the MVPs of this delivery service? Your red blood cells. We're talking trillions of them, constantly moving through your body. They swing by the lungs to pick up a fresh shipment of oxygen, and then they drop it off to literally every single cell, from your brain all the way down to the tips of your toes. They are the tireless little delivery drivers of your internal highway. Now, the real magic here is a protein called hemoglobin. It's packed inside every single red blood cell. So if the red blood cell is the delivery truck, hemoglobin molecules are like the thousands of tiny hands that physically grab onto the oxygen. And, get this, at the very heart of each hemoglobin is an iron atom. That iron is what acts like a tiny magnet for oxygen, locking it in for the ride. And this slide just perfectly lays out the problem. On the left, you've got healthy blood. See how it's packed with red blood cells? It's rich in hemoglobin, making sure every tissue gets all the oxygen it needs. But then look at the right. That's anemic blood. The difference is stark, isn't it? Fewer delivery trucks on the road, and the ones that are there have fewer hands to carry the oxygen. The whole delivery system is just struggling to keep up. So what do we call it when this absolutely essential delivery service starts to break down? Well, that's where we get into anemia. Let's nail down a proper definition. So technically, anemia isn't just one single disease. It's a state, a condition, where your blood either doesn't have enough healthy red blood cells or those cells don't have enough hemoglobin. The bottom line is, no matter what the cause, the end result is exactly the same. Your body's tissues are being starved of the oxygen they desperately need to function. So how does a failure like this even happen? Well, it's not just one thing. Anemia can pop up from breakdowns at a few different points in the system. We can basically group them into three main categories. First, you can have a supply chain issue. The body needs raw materials, like iron for hemoglobin and vitamins like B12 for the cells to develop properly. Without those, production just grinds to a halt. Second, the factory itself, your bone marrow, can shut down. In a condition called aplastic anemia, the marrow just stops making enough new cells. And third, you could be losing your fleet of delivery trucks faster than you can build them, which is what happens with bleeding. Okay, so we have this breakdown happening on the inside, but how does that turn into what a person actually feels? Well, when your tissues are starved for oxygen, they don't just suffer in silence. They send out these huge, system-wide alarms, and we experience those alarms as the symptoms of anemia. And this image does a fantastic job of showing those alarms. You can see right away that oxygen deprivation isn't just a local problem. It affects everything. You've got fatigue and dizziness from the central nervous system, shortness of breath from the lungs, and that racing heart or even chest pain from the cardiovascular system. Every single one of these is a direct result of tissues screaming out for more oxygen. Let's really connect these dots. That overwhelming fatigue and weakness, that's your brain and muscles literally running on fumes. Pale skin? Well, that happens because there are fewer red blood cells, which give your blood its color circulating near the skin surface. That feeling of being short of breath, that's your body's desperate attempt to pull more oxygen into the lungs. And the racing heart, that's your heart going into overdrive, trying to pump what little oxygenated blood you have around the body faster. So we understand the problem. We see its effects all over the body. The next logical question is, how do we fix it? And the key is to first figure out exactly where the failure is happening. The first step, almost always, is a simple blood test called a complete blood count, or a CBC. This is great because it gives us a direct measurement of red blood cells and hemoglobin. It tells doctors exactly how big the oxygen-carrying deficit is. And what's really cool is that the treatment logic is all about fixing that specific problem. If it's an iron deficiency, a supply chain issue, the solution is to replenish the iron. Makes sense, right? If the body can't absorb vitamin B12 from food, you just bypass that problem with B12 injections. And if the whole bone marrow factory has shut down, well, you might need therapies to restart it, or even a stem cell transplant to basically plant the seeds for a brand new factory. Now, in really severe cases, I'm talking when a person is showing major symptoms and their hemoglobin level drops below a critical point, usually around 7 grams per deciliter, that's when a more immediate fix is needed. That's when a blood transfusion comes in to rapidly get that oxygen carrying capacity back up and stabilize everything. So let's just step back for a moment and look at the whole journey we've just walked through, from a single molecule all the way to the body's entire response. The story of anemia is just such a clear, logical chain of events. It all starts with the body's normal, efficient oxygen delivery service. Then something causes that service to fail. That failure triggers the alarm bells that we feel as symptoms. And finally, the treatment is all about figuring out what broke and restoring the service. It's really a perfect example of physiology, pathology, and medicine all working together. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. We've just seen how unbelievably critical one tiny type of cell is for our well-being, from one moment to the next. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other quiet, cellular-level signals might our bodies be sending us every single day, just waiting for us to learn how to listen?